Clemson got a big win against North Carolina, 31-20. Carolina left a lot of points off the board in this game. Okay, their running back, Omarion Hampton, this dude is insanely talented. He had 178 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. He was averaging 9.4 yards per carry. This dude is a freaking bulldozer. It's like he was playing Madden 25 up there, running guys over, trucking guys. But he left 2 touchdowns on the field. He had a fumble early on when Drake Maye got a really big 4th and 6 conversion attempt to Taz Walker. It was really crazy. Like, Carolina went for it on 4th and 6, and everybody was looking at Mac Brown like, what the hell are you doing? And then Drake Maye throws a beautiful dot right along the sideline to Taz Walker, which gets them in the red zone. And then Omarion Hampton, he fumbles the ball inside the 10, gives it back to Clemson. And then he has another fumble later on in the game when he's about to score a touchdown, and then a Clemson defender comes behind them and knocks the football out. If UNC would have been able to capitalize on those 2 possessions and they would have resulted in touchdowns, this game probably would have tilted in their favor. Drake Maye, he had a really good performance. I thought Clemson, for the most part, did a really good job at being able to contain him, because you're never going to be able to shut down a guy as talented as Drake Maye. There was one play when he threw a 33-yard touchdown when he basically was avoiding pressure and he basically threw a fadeaway. And I was like, bro, what the hell is this dude doing? But it didn't matter because he still had enough arm strength to get the ball there. Most quarterbacks, when they're fading back and they throw a kind of pass like that, it most of the times results in either an incompletion or an interception. But that's not the case with Drake Maye. This dude is like a freaking superhuman. And not only was he carving up this Clemson secondary through the air with all these crazy ass passes, but he was also a force on the ground. Anytime UNC needed a big play on the ground to keep the drive alive, Drake Maye was there. Omarion Hampton had a big night on the ground, but so did Drake Maye. He had some really big runs. This dude is a really good athlete. And I'm now starting to understand the reasoning more and more why people are making an argument for Drake Maye being quarterback 1 in next year's draft over Caleb Williams, because nearly anything that Caleb Williams can do, Drake Maye can do just as the same or better. That fadeaway touchdown that he threw was insane, and that 4th and 6 dime to Taz Walker was even crazier. But the fact that Omarion Hampton left 2 touchdowns on the field, it really hurt them in this game. And although their defense started out the game playing well, eventually you knew it was going to come a point when Clemson's offense was going to start rolling. And they didn't really get going until their final possession before halftime when they scored a touchdown. Clay Klubnik was able to punch it in. And then in the second half, Clemson's offense really got rolling. Will Shipley, Phil Maffa, both had really good second half performances, especially Will Shipley. Okay, he's one of the more underrated running backs in college football, and it's crazy because he had a lot of hype coming out of high school, but I guess the fact that Clemson hasn't really been in the national title conversation kind of has taken the spotlight off of a guy like Will Shipley, because he had 126 rushing yards. He had a couple of really big explosive runs in the second half, and he also had a big catch as well that went for 36 yards. So he's a really good all-around, all-purpose back. I'm really interested in seeing where he's going to get drafted at if he's able to come out for the 2024 NFL draft. He has a pretty interesting skill set. Not really a big physical runner, but he is pretty tough inside of the tackles. Although he's not going to be somebody that's going to run through you, he's somebody that's either going to run past you or he's going to break your ankles. He had a couple of ankle breakers in the second half of this game as well. And to their credit, although Drake Maye was doing a lot of crazy shit, their pass rush got a lot of pressure on him in big moments of this game, especially in the fourth quarter. This pass rush was humming all game long, and it was a large reason why UNC's offense wasn't able to have too much success against this defense outside of the first quarter. The first quarter was probably UNC's best offensive showing throughout this game. And like I said, Omarion Hampton, if he doesn't have those 2 fumbles and those drives turn into touchdowns or whatnot, UNC probably is on the winning end of this thing. But Clemson got the win. I felt like Clemson was a lock to win this game because they play their best football at home. And this probably can be considered a little bit of a disappointing season for Clemson when you think about the expectations that they had coming into this year. I don't think that many people in the national media expected them to be a playoff contender, but you expected them to at least be in a conversation to make it to the ACC championship game. So they're en route to win 9 games this season, which is pretty respectable. It's just that when you think about what they've done in the past, the expectations have kind of went down a little bit. It's like now you look at Clemson as a team that probably is going to be contending to be in the New Year's Six bowl game. They're going to be around 10 wins, but you kind of question if they're ever going to get back to that national championship level. And I'm wondering if Dabo Swinney is going to change his approach to the transfer portal this offseason, although this game probably isn't going to be anything that may motivate him to do that. Because, you were able to beat a really good North Carolina team, but you still look back at that loss to Florida State. You could have won that game. And you were playing that game at home. But outside of that game, Clemson, when they're playing in Death Valley, they're a really tough team to beat. And that still shows me that they're still a really good program. When you're able to defend home turf, and it's really hard to come away with wins against you when they have to travel on the road to beat you, that's still a sign that you're a pretty good program. I just don't know if Clemson is that elite program because the quarterback play out of Cade Klubnik for the majority of this season hasn't been great. He's played some really good football the last couple of weeks. In this game, he was pretty efficient. Didn't have any turnovers. He made some really big throws downfield. And also, he had some really big runs as well. He kind of is like a discount value version of Trevor Lawrence in a sense. He kind of has a similar skill set in terms of how he runs. He runs kind of tall and lanky. And then the way he throws the football is a little bit similar to Trevor Lawrence. But he's just not as good as a quarterback as what Trevor Lawrence was. He's like a great value brand version of him and with shorter hair. But I'm eager to see the growth that he has going into his second season and Garrett Riley's offense next year in 2024. For North Carolina, this season started out with a lot of promise. You started out smacking South Carolina, and then you got to the point where you were undefeated, and then you lost to Virginia, one of the worst teams in the ACC, and then you had another head-scratching loss right after that, and then you had a close game against Duke. This team, for some reason, they start out hot, but they kind of fizzle out during the second stretch of the season, and their defense played well for the first couple of games, and after that, I don't know what the hell has been going wrong with this defense. Now, you can't blame this defense entirely for the loss, with the offense, leaving touchdowns on the field. But this defense in the second half, they had no answers for this Clemson offense. This Clemson offense was humming on all cylinders, and they did get a couple of stops here and there, but not any big ones when it mattered the most. They couldn't get any big turnovers that could alter the momentum of this game. They couldn't really help their offense out, putting them in more favorable field position. This was a good performance by Clemson, although they started out slow. Hell, the way the game started, you would have thought that North Carolina was going to blow these fools out. But the fact that they had those costly fumbles by Omarion Hampton, that really hurt them. You come away with touchdowns on those turnovers, you probably end up winning this game if you're a UNC, because that would have been a 14-point swing, and you would have probably won this game 34-31 instead of losing it 31-20. But congratulations to Clemson on the big win. Give your thoughts on this game and what your initial thoughts were watching this matchup down in the comment section down below.